That was Andrew Mccabe, and I guess people thinking it's funny. There's nothing funny about what I just read, which is this letter from Congressman Ron DeSantis to the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, to Christopher Wray, the FBI director, and the Honorable John Huber of the United States Attorney for the District of Utah has been brought in by Sessions because these are criminal referrals against the FBI director himself, against Hillary Clinton, against, the Attorney General, former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, against former Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, FBI agents Strzok and Page, and it goes on from there. I read the whole referral. Congressman Ron DeSantis joins us right now. It's great to have him on the program. His first interview over this referral. And also joining us, she's written an extensive report on this today, Sara Carter, SaraACarter.com, investigative journalist. Welcome, both of you. Congressman, all of the things that you mentioned, and I read it in its entirety on the air in the last hour, and these criminal referrals, this is all real stuff here. And the Attorney General, the FBI director, now have an obligation, do they not?
Well, Sean, think about it. We know Comey, before the Congress, said, when asked by one of my colleagues, did you decide to exonerate Hillary before the interview? And he said, no, it was after. Well, then what happened since then is that we've gotten documents that showed he drafted the exoneration memo 2 months before he interviewed her and many other key witnesses. Chuck Grassley has written about the information that Comey has provided to his committee being inconsistent with the facts that they've discovered subsequent relating to the FBI's relationship with Christopher Steele. And, of course, Comey was never forthright about the political sources of the dossier. And then the memos, Grassley himself found this. 7 memos, 4 had classified information, and Comey leaked 4 of the 7. So that means at least one of the memos had to have had classified information. That was an intentional leak. That wasn't just a mistake. And so, at some point, Sean, if there's anyone who even sneezes in Donald Trump's orbit, you have the whole special counsel goes swooping in to try to find whatever they can. But you have these instances, and it's almost like nobody even cares to hold some of the people in high authority accountable. And I just want an equal zealousness applied to everybody. And we don't see that now. And so hopefully this orients Huber and Sessions to some of the things we found in the Congress over the last, 6 to 8 months, and let them investigate and see what they can come up with.
It's also why we oppose special counsels and why both parties actually allowed the independent counsel statute to lapse. We have an investigation supposedly about Russian collusion. Now it's about stormy and private conversations and attorneys. It is outrageous. Anyway, Sara, this is very important. How does this dovetail into the Inspector General report that we expect to come any day or week now as it relates to the investigation into Hillary?
I think it does right into it. It moves right along with it. And it's an important letter because as Congressman DeSantis said, you have this overzealousness, this anything that happens with President Trump or with anybody in his campaign all of a sudden becomes the story of the decade. Even Stormy Daniels, it's incredible. But here you have insurmountable evidence, right, that all of this has occurred between former FBI Director James Comey. We see what's happened with Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, who was fired by the Inspector General, and we've seen his report and the reasons why. We know that he lied under oath. We know that he has been extraordinarily biased based on text messages between his own employees. There's still a number of questions remaining, and I think that when Inspector General Horowitz's next report comes out, which is expected in May, and it's going to focus on the FBI's handling of the investigation into the Clinton Foundation, we are going to see, into the Clinton email, her use of a private server to send emails.
But we know laws were broken here. And there's nobody that's ever, and that's 18 U.S.C. 793. And that's the mishandling and destruction of classified information. Even Comey is acknowledging it. And then the second part of all of that is, okay, I dare anyone to delete 33,000 subpoenaed emails, acid wash your hard drive, and then bust up your devices and not get charged with obstruction of justice. Good luck.
Yeah, could you imagine doing that, Sean? Could you imagine if they came to your house to gather information and you had broken it and set it on fire and left it in the backyard? You would go to jail.
Oh, that's another problem, though, Sean, is that they bleach fit the server. Those emails were under congressional subpoena. And it isn't even that nobody was ever charged with it. Of course, no one was ever charged. I don't even think the FBI even pursued it as a potential obstruction. So here we have this double standard where Comey is saying Donald Trump allegedly saying to him, I hope you can let Flynn go, is potential obstruction. But bleach fitting a server that's under congressional subpoena is no one even considers looking into that. That's just a double standard that I think is irreconcilable.
Yeah, I think it's... All right, let me go to this part. And you raised this as point 6 in your letter, that the Department of Justice, FBI personnel, any connected with the compilation of documents, alleged links between Russia and then presidential candidate Donald Trump, known as the Steele dossier, including and not limited to Comey, Mccabe, Sally Yates, and others. You know, this is what we know at this point. We know that the dossier was never corroborated. I think the biggest development, and I said it's a dumb idea for James Comey, A, to write a book, and B, what lawyer would let him do these interviews? Because he said to George Stephanopoulos, well, it might be true. It's possible it's true about the hooker story. The problem with that is that dossier, which was put together by a foreign national that used Russian and Russian government sources, much of which has been debunked, none of which has been proven. It was never verified or corroborated, and he and others allowed that dossier to be presented in the original FISA application to spy on an American citizen, a Trump campaign associate, then 3 subsequent renewals. It was, according to the Grassley-Graham memo, the bulk of the information to obtain the FISA warrant, and they never corroborated, they never verified, and they never told any of these FISA judges in these warrants that Hillary bought and paid for it. Now, Congressman, you tell me, that sounds like a crime and purposely deceiving judges.
And think about, too, what Comey's saying now. He's saying, look, he's trying to de-emphasize the dossier. He's like, look, it wasn't the dossier. It was Papadopoulos. We got this tip, and so we started it. Then ask yourself if that's the case. If it was all Papadopoulos, which was sometime in the summer of 2016, why did they not interview Papadopoulos until the following year? They never brought him in to interview him if that was such an important thing. Instead, it was the dossier that was packaged up, all dressed up as an intelligence document and put in front of the FISA court. Now, in the letter, we mention Hillary Clinton potentially violating Federal Election Commission rules because when she expended all this money for the dossier, she put it as to a payment to a law firm, Perkins Coie. There's no mention on the FEC.
By the way, doesn't that sound like a campaign violation? The very thing they're accusing the Michael Cohen of. Right. Doesn't that sound like funneling money?
So the question is, if Cohen's is an FEC violation for paying a potential private settlement, then how is camouflaging this money? Because think about it, Sean. If they had written on their FEC report $10 million for Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele, the FBI would not have been able to then use it as a, quote, intelligence document. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would have been public knowledge that this thing was an opposition research document. So that FEC filing really did, by camouflaging the payment, it allowed FBI to continue with the fiction that this was some type of major intelligence thing when it was really just dressed up opposition research.
Congressman DeSantis, I want to give you many thanks. The work you've done here is critical. Sara Carter, you too, and guys like Greg Jarrett and Tom Fitton and Sebastian Gorka. I'm not going to remember John Solomon. Everybody that's contributed. It was March of last year when you said there was a FISA warrant leading up to the election. And you were right, and nobody in the media covered it, as you've been right on many of these stories. This seems to be everything that, as I use the analogy of peeling layers of an onion, it now seems to have come full circle here. And that is that now we have the evidence, now we know what happened, and now it's just a matter of if the law will be applied equally to these people, Sara.
It sure is, Sean, and the American people are watching. They're watching intensely, and Congress is doing everything to fight for these documents and to ensure that justice is served equally. I think what Congressman DeSantis, Chairman Nunes and others, Trey Gowdy, Goodlatte, everybody has been fighting tooth and nail for these documents from the DOJ and the FBI, which are withholding these documents from us. But I think that eventually all the documentation will come forth. I think another big issue here, Sean, and one that we need to really focus on is this disinformation campaign. It's amazing how many of these people say we should fear Russia and what Russia did with their disinformation campaign. Well, it's people like Comey and Brennan and Clapper and others who have taken a dossier filled with disinformation that they have not been able to verify and continuously hammered at the President of the United States for the last 15 months. If anybody has a disinformation campaign or if anybody is being unwittingly used by the Russians, it's them. And that's something that we should all be concerned about.
Yeah, I think we really should. All right, so I'll tell you what. Why don't we take a break, and we'll come back. What we're going to do on TV tonight, Sara will join us, Ron DeSantis will join us. We're actually going to lay this out and put it up visually so you understand just how profound this letter is that he is, this criminal referral that he has laid out. There's also another criminal referral by Mark Meadows and Trey Gowdy. We'll have that information for you as well, which we've been getting to. So, Linda, you'll get a kick out of this before we get back to our guest. So the Washington Post now wants to write the 50th story about me. And what is Hannity? Is he an opinion journalist? Is he an advocacy? I'm a talk show host. And a talk show, sometimes, Linda, do we do straight news interviews?
Like we do all kinds of interviews.
All right, so a straight interview. Sometimes we break news on this program. We actually break more news than the so-called journalists. Sometimes I give my opinion in a monologue. Sometimes I let people debate. Sometimes I debate people. It's under the banner of a talk show host. Yes, at times I do straight up, fair, balanced, objective interviews, journalistic interviews.
Maybe you should ask WAPA what they are.
Exactly.
Inquiring minds want to know.
All right, we continue with Sara Carter and Ron DeSantis. All right, what is the process? And have you heard back, Congressman, from Jeff Sessions or Chris Wray or John Huber?
We've not. We just sent it today. I thought it was important. Huber he's not a special counsel per se, but he is a criminal prosecutor who would have access to a grand jury, and that is who Sessions tapped. And whether he is authorized to proceed with cases or whether he's supposed to be investigating and then reporting to Sessions whether cases should go forward under a special counsel, that hasn't been made clear. But I just thought it was important to flag all the things that we in the Congress have found, and obviously you've been discussing for a long time now, so that he can actually look and make judgments about these things. I mean, clearly there's a lot of problematic conduct here, but he's got to look to see if there's a case there and then decide whether to go forward. But look, I think for us to just hope that that people are going to do the right thing, I think what we found is, you got to take action, you got to demonstrate leadership, because it's not just going to happen by itself.
You have a lot of contacts, Sara, in the Department of Justice. What are they telling you?
Look, this is like he said, this is the beginning. I'm waiting to hear back from sources in the Department of Justice on this. What I am hearing, though, is with regard to Huber and his work. I mean, remember, he's been on this since the fall. He has been looking into this. That's when he was first appointed to start looking into some of the situations that were involving the investigation into the Clinton server email situation, as well as the FBI's handling of that, as well as other issues that involved Mccabe. So at the same time, we have the Inspector General getting ready to issue reports on Hillary Clinton and the handling of the FBI into that investigation, as well as the FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court issues. We know Huber's been working as well, looking at all of the angles, and I have been told that there will definitely be an indictment, and that there have been, they've been looking at some activity
people
that we would consider criminal. Yes, of people that have already been mentioned, and people within this.
All right.
Yeah,
Ron DeSantis, Sara Carter, we're going to do a deep dive into this criminal referral, this breaking news tonight on Hannity at 9. Thank you both.